You've been thinking about this a lot, trying to understand it, trying to get it right, trying to make sure you're doing it correctly. And the more you think about it, the more complicated it feels, because every answer creates another question. Am I in the right state? Am I doing this properly? Why isn't it here yet? What am I missing? And that loop doesn't stop. It just keeps going, quietly, constantly, even when you're not aware of it. Because overthinking is not just thinking a lot. It's trying to figure something out that you believe isn't fully resolved. So your mind keeps working, keeps analyzing, keeps searching for clarity. But that search is the problem. Because the moment you're searching, you're not settled. You're not certain. You're not in a state of knowing. You're in a state of trying to get there. And that state keeps everything active. Nothing stabilizes. Nothing locks in. Because you're constantly revisiting it, reevaluating it, re-questioning it. And that keeps the loop alive. So even if you've learned everything, even if you understand the concepts, if you're still overthinking, you're still in motion, still unsettled. And that's why nothing fully shifts. Overthinking feels productive, like you're getting closer, like you're figuring it out. But structurally, it does the opposite. Because overthinking never leads to resolution. It leads to more thinking. You don't reach an answer, you reach another angle, another possibility, another interpretation, and each one reopens the question. So instead of settling, your mind stays active, constantly moving, constantly evaluating, constantly trying to land somewhere, but never landing. And that state prevents stability, because stability requires stillness, a point where something is decided, final, not being revisited, not being questioned again. But overthinking keeps everything open, unresolved, in motion. So nothing locks in. Nothing becomes natural. Nothing becomes obvious. Because you're always reevaluating it. And that creates doubt. Not always obvious, but subtle. Because if something was certain, you wouldn't keep thinking about it. You wouldn't need to analyze it. You wouldn't revisit it again and again. So the act of overthinking confirms uncertainty. Even if you're trying to solve it, even if you're trying to get it right, you're reinforcing, I don't fully know yet. And that position keeps everything the same, because reality doesn't reflect effort. It reflects certainty. And overthinking is the opposite of certainty. It's constant movement, constant questioning, constant searching. And as long as that continues, nothing stabilizes, nothing becomes fixed, nothing fully shifts, because you're never holding one position. You're cycling through many, and that inconsistency is what reflects. You don't overthink because you want to. You overthink because something feels unresolved, unclear, like there's still something you need to figure out. So your mind keeps working, not randomly, but with a purpose, to find certainty, to reach a point where you can say, okay, now I get it. But that point never comes through thinking, because thinking creates more variables, more angles, more possibilities. So instead of closing the loop, it expands it. And that's why it feels endless. Because every time you think, you generate more to think about. And your mind interprets that as progress, as movement, as working on it. But really, it's staying in the same place, just with more noise. And the reason it keeps happening is because certainty hasn't been reached. Not intellectually, internally. A place where something feels settled, final, not needing to be revisited again. And until that point is reached, the mind keeps trying, keeps searching, keeps looping, because it believes, if I just think about it enough, I'll get there. But thinking is what's keeping you from getting there, because it prevents stillness. And stillness is where certainty exists, not in motion, not in analysis, not in trying to understand, but in stopping, in allowing something to be final, even without explanation, even without full logical clarity, because certainty doesn't come from knowing more, it comes from deciding. And once something is decided, thinking has no role, no purpose, no function, so it stops, naturally. There is a state where thinking becomes quiet, not forced, not suppressed, just unnecessary. In this state, you're not trying to figure anything out. You're not analyzing. You're not going back and forth, because there's nothing to resolve. It already feels clear. Not because you found the perfect answer, because you stopped needing one. And that's the difference. Overthinking comes from needing clarity. This state comes from being settled without needing more. So the mind has nothing to do, no problem to solve, no loop to continue, no reason to keep moving. And when there's no reason to move, it becomes still, naturally, effortlessly. You don't have to stop thoughts. You don't have to control them. You don't have to fight your mind, because the structure that produces overthinking is no longer there. There's no uncertainty being held, no open loop, no unresolved position. So thinking loses its function and fades on its own. This is what clarity actually feels like. Not loud, not analytical, not full of answers. Quiet, simple, done. And from this state, everything stabilizes, because you're no longer interrupting it, no longer questioning it, no longer reopening it. You're just remaining. And that's what allows things to reflect. Not effort, not control. Stillness. Overthinking was never helping you. It just felt like it was, because it gave the illusion of progress, of doing something, of getting closer. But all it really did was keep everything open, unsettled, unresolved, in motion. And that's why nothing locked in, because you were never holding one position. You were moving between many, analyzing, questioning, revisiting. And that constant movement is what reflected. Not your intention, not what you wanted, but the instability itself. Because reality reflects what's consistent, and overthinking is inconsistency. But now you see it. So the shift isn't stop thinking. The shift is stop needing to figure it out. Stop searching for clarity. Stop trying to reach certainty through thought, because certainty doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from deciding, And once something is decided, there's nothing left to think about, nothing left to analyze, nothing left to resolve. So the mind naturally becomes quiet, not controlled, not forced, resolved. And from that state, everything stabilizes because you're no longer interrupting it. You're no longer reopening it. You're no longer changing positions. You're just remaining where it's already done. And in that position, overthinking doesn't exist. Not because you stopped it, because it has no function. If this clicked, anchor it. Comment, I don't overthink, I decide.